Marilyn Chambers wasn't famous in the ordinary way. She didn't grow into stardom through gradual recognition or careful branding. Instead, she exploded into the American imagination like a crack in the surface of 1970s culture. Beautiful, controversial, and impossible to ignore. Her face once represented wholesome purity on a famous soapbox, and then, in the space of a few years, that same face became the trigger for national hysteria. Her story is a brutal contradiction. A girl who wanted to be an actress but was trapped by a single role, a woman whose name became a moral weapon, a talented performer forced to fight a public that refused to see her as human. This is the story of how fame can become a cage, and how a life built on a choice can be destroyed by everyone else's obsession. The Connecticut girl who wanted the stage. Before the name Marilyn Chambers became a cultural war, she was simply a young girl in Connecticut who wanted to be seen. Born April 22, 1952, in Providence, Rhode Island, Marilyn grew up in Westport, Connecticut, in a stable, middle-class home. Her father worked in advertising, her mother was a nurse. Practical, respectable jobs that reflected the kind of life America deemed proper. A dream of entertainment wasn't encouraged, and her father even tried to stop her from modeling, warning her about the emotional brutality of the business. But his resistance became fuel. Marilyn was never the quiet background type. In school, she was a cheerleader and a drama club participant, someone who needed the stage. By 16, she was already testing modeling waters, slipping into auditions and chasing opportunities as if she were trying to open a door that would never open on its own. The San Francisco turning point. By the late 1960s and early 1970s, Marilyn's career had barely begun. A small role in The Owl and the Pussycat, 1970, was a hint of cinema, but not a breakthrough. She moved to San Francisco, a city more open and rebellious than Hollywood, where her ambition could breathe without being immediately judged. To survive, she did whatever work she could. Topless modeling, bottomless dancing, any stage that kept her near the lights. She didn't become a sex symbol because she was born for it. She simply needed a way to stay close to the dream. Then one ordinary day in 1972, she saw a casting notice in the San Francisco Chronicle. It promised a major motion picture. Marilyn went, not knowing the door she would open would become a trap that shaped the rest of her life. Behind the green door, the choice that locked her. The casting room was cold. The film wasn't a Hollywood drama, it was Behind the Green Door, an adult project. Marilyn understood instantly that the label would cling to her forever. She almost walked away, terrified that her future would be shut tight by one wrong decision. But the Mitchell brothers saw something rare, a clean, innocent face that could make a taboo film feel like cinema rather than crude exploitation. They compared her to a young actress, offering her a fantasy role shaped like a dream. Marilyn's inner conflict burned. One part of her wanted to run, the other wanted to be chosen. She negotiated fiercely, demanding high pay, 10% gross revenue, and mandatory STI testing for all performers. That last demand wasn't morality, it was survival instinct. The Mitchells needed her, she needed the chance. And in that moment, Marilyn Chambers crossed a line she could never cross back. The silent performance that shocked a nation behind the green door gave Marilyn a paradoxical role. She was silent for the entire film. For most actors, that would be a limitation. For Marilyn, it was a weapon. She used her face, her breathing, and the trembling tension between resistance and surrender to make the audience stare. Her silence forced people to look, to interpret, to question what was real. When the film was released, It arrived at a moment when America was changing. Pornography was no longer hidden, it was becoming a cultural event. Deep Throat and the Devil in Miss Jones were discussed openly, and Behind the Green Door became a national symbol, an innocent face in an obscene world. Its budget was tiny, but its impact was monstrous. The film's reported earnings, later claimed to reach $50 million, turned Marilyn into more than a performer. She became the face of a nationwide moral panic. The struggle to escape the label. After Resurrection of Eve, 1973, Marilyn began to realize the cage was closing. She was famous, yes, but not as an actress. She was famous as a body. She tried to escape by proving herself elsewhere. In 1974, she moved to Las Vegas and starred in The Man with a Dirty Mind, a dinner theater show that ran for 52 consecutive weeks. The show's success brought her a key to the city, a rare moment where she felt seen as a working performer rather than a scandal. She kept pushing toward Hollywood. In 1976, director Nicholas Ray considered her for a lead role opposite Rip Torn in City Blues. Ray saw potential beyond her image, but the project dissolved as Ray spiraled into addiction. The door had opened and then slammed shut by chaos beyond her control. She tried music, releasing the disco single Benihana, and even received positive reviews for her voice, yet the past kept pulling her back. Betrayal, addiction, and the industry that consumed her. In 1976, the Mitchell brothers released Inside Marilyn Chambers, a documentary built from outtakes and interviews. Marilyn hadn't consented. Her image was being repackaged without her control, proving that a woman could be turned into a product even when she tried to speak. She negotiated again, agreeing to interviews and a promotional tour in exchange for 10% gross. Painful, but necessary. She had to reclaim what she could before the industry erased her entirely. In 1977, she starred in David Cronenberg's Rabid, a mainstream horror film, where her presence became unsettling rather than erotic. It was a rare chance to be seen as an actor, but Hollywood still couldn't stop staring at her past. A meeting with Jack Nicholson and Art Garfunkel turned into a humiliating interrogation. They asked about cocaine and real orgasms, not acting. She walked out, furious. She realized Hollywood didn't want her talent, they wanted her legend. Legacy, the icon who refused to be a symbol. In her later years, Marilyn worked to reclaim her story. She wrote books, columns, and even ran for vice president on a libertarian ticket. She acted in indie films like Stash and Solitaire, where she could perform without the pressure to remain young, thin, or scandalous. She became a living legend, attending conventions and meeting fans who remembered her as an era-defining figure. But the cost of being a symbol was never fully healed. On April 12, 2009, she died at age 56 from a cerebral hemorrhage and aneurysm linked to heart disease. Painkillers and antidepressants were found in her system, though not in lethal amounts. Her death felt like the final confirmation of a life spent balancing on the edge, between admiration and exploitation, between liberation and prejudice. Marilyn Chambers wasn't just an adult film star. She was proof that society can elevate a woman into a myth, then punish her for the same myth it created. Outro: the question she leaves behind. Marilyn Chambers remains haunting because she forces us to confront a truth we often avoid. Fame can be a throne and a cage at the same time. She chose her path, yet the world refused to let her be more than a symbol. She was neither angel nor victim. She was a human being fighting for dignity in a culture that loved to consume women and hate them when they no longer fit the gaze. Her legacy is not only the films or the controversy, but but the brutal lesson that liberation and judgment often wear the same face. What was your first memory of Marilyn Chambers? What moment made her name feel both alluring and unsettling?